Hello and welcome to the Bull and Specs podcast, episode 33. I'm Shane O'Connor and he's Adrian Lacey. If you've not joined us before, it's two old gits talking about some of the stuff that's happening in the news and a little bit of an insight into our personal life as well. Although, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. Adrian.
Yes, I'm not sure how much I should take you to task over the two old gits. But thinking about it, it is factually correct.
I was going to say, you'd have a hard job making that one stand up in court, wouldn't you, really? And which of you says that you are not an old git, you pair of old gits? Said the judge.
But we could say we're younger than you, Your Honour.
Yeah, true. The deluxe is the one with the real hair. We were just talking about not the 9 o'clock news before we started. Do you want to go first? Because I'm feeling in a generous and a kind of benevolent mood after watching almost a full day of football. The World Cup's around, you see, because I'm a bit of a football fan, so it doesn't bother you, does it? Because you're not into it at all.
No, although of course, if England, heaven forbid, start doing well, I'll suddenly get interested and be a fair weather fan.
You see, for me, I mean, I think it's. Brazil, I think, is playing tomorrow, one of the games, because there's like 3 games a day at this stage.
Right.
And for me, it's the ones that you don't see a lot that I kind of, like England, I think, oh, okay, fine, you see them. The European sides you'll see on the TV. I watched a bit of Spain and Portugal a little bit earlier, but you kind of, it's the ones that you don't get to see an awful lot that I find quite interesting in these kind of competitions. But yeah, there you go.
Are Brazil the favourites?
Do you know? I don't know who the favourites are. I never. It depends who you ask as well, doesn't it? If it's like the favourites according to the bookies, then is that the same as the favourite according to FIFA? Or I suppose they don't have favourites, do they? Did you see any of the opening ceremony, by the way? Robbie Williams flicking the V and also giving the finger and all the rest of it. Did you see all that?
No, I heard someone mention Robbie, and then I was only sort of half clued in. So he actually was at the ceremony. Who's he flicking the V to?
I think it was what do the kids call them now? Haters. I think it was to the haters. Because people had said, "Oh, Robbie Williams is doing the opening ceremony. He sold his soul to Vladimir Putin."
Right.
And I think he sang the line. He changed the lyric to one of his songs, and he said, "And I'm doing this for free," and flicked the bird at the camera. So I think it was that he was sort of saying to the people who'd said, "Oh, you sold your soul." He was saying, "No, actually, I'm not. Up yours. I'm doing this one as a freebie." I mean, I've slept a lot better since anyway, so now I know that he hasn't added to his enormous wealth, but there you are. So anyway, my point was, do you want to go first?
Well, yes, if this is first. Now we've been talking for a while. I don't know how this connects with football, but I haven't got one of those standout show and tells. Basically, I'm talking it down so that the expectation's not too high. But I just need to put my headphones down, so you're going to have to do one of your entertain yourself for a moment.
You spend more time away from this podcast than you do on it, don't you, these days?
But it's an acquired skill.
Look, he's got this wanderlust now. And whenever I see he's off to and he goes as far as the corner of the room. In fairness to,
hang on. Sorry, it's just gone out of shot.
Are those for me? You shouldn't have done.
And for the benefit of our listeners, and untangling the cable, helping my very butch image, having already admitted I know nothing about football, here are the starring flowers. I suppose we could call them World Cup flowers, but they've really got nothing to do with the World Cup. It's a vase full of carnations. And I was thinking to myself, what have I done this week? Most of the week I've had to get an early night because I've been doing those crazy up at 3 a.m. to work on exotic BBC breakfast radio shows. So I haven't really got many anecdotes because you can't really have wild nights. I tend to think, if I look at my watch and I'm still up at 9 o'clock, that's a late night.
Yeah.
So anyway, so beautiful, I think, in my opinion. So I did at least shove this together. I can't say I arranged it. It's more sort of just stuffed in the vase. But lovely reds, and also I think the word is variegated, yellow and red. Can you see see the red trim on the yellow ones?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
It's rather nice, isn't it?
They're clever, aren't they? They're clever. Are they grown like that? Are they? They're not dipped, are they? Because they do spray them.
Should we ask them if they're that clever? They should be able to talk. In answer to, can you hear his question? I think I'll have to relay it because I've got headphones on. They haven't. He's asking. They probably are. I don't know. It's a bit like flamingos need to eat pink food, don't they, to be pink?
Well, there's an advert on the TV. It says that they eat shrimp and that's why they're pink. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it may be.
Do you think bananas, would they be yellow, or does it not work like that?
Well, I think we should try. Although I'm not sure they'd be too taken by bananas.
So next week in the corner you'll have some flamingos. Can't wait for that.
You laugh. I make these things happen, mate.
That should be entertaining, if nothing else, shouldn't it? Really, yeah. They are nice. Yes. They are. I'm really quite impressed with those. Yeah, I thought. And they
now,
were fake.
Of course, now that I don't know how I proved they're real, but I suppose
eat one.
The dead giveaway. The dead giveaway is the one that's I think I would die then. No, the dead giveaway is the poor little stragglers haven't quite made it above the line of the glass vase.
Yeah.
But I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. So
I do think, and I don't know if I'm just lucky every time, I do think this idea of flower arranging is a bit of a fallacy, isn't it? Don't you? Do you think this is, I'm a flower arranger? You think, what, you throw them in a vase? What's the matter with you with this? You know, there can't be that much to it, can there really? Do you think?
I don't want to incur the wrath of Flower Arrangers Anonymous.
What they're going to do, eat with their carnations? That's not going to hurt, is it?
Yeah. That might be actually quite pleasant.
Throw a lump of Oasis at you. It's like, no.
Lacey, you had a go at our organisation.
No.
Take this. Going to sprinkle you with some flower food.
Take this. It's a daffodil. We picked it for you this morning.
Oh, you rotters.
I don't know.
Hey, you're the one who hates football. Well, take this. There must be a very small overlap between flower arrangers and football fans. I don't know. I'm going to stick my neck out here. Maybe that's terrible stereotyping. But I got a feeling it might be a binary thing. You're either with the flowers or you're with the football. You can't do both.
I don't know. I think I don't know. I would beg to differ on that one. I think you watch it. Have a look next time the camera pans round at the World Cup. See all the guys there holding bouquets.
Famous for it. They're so sensitive.
The one thing they did let slip out, somebody, one of the commentators the other day was saying that one of the games, this was yesterday, that local people, anyone, is paying about 300 quid a ticket to go and see a World Cup. I mean, there's no way I'd go and watch 90 minutes of football for 300 quid. I mean, it's just ludicrous, isn't it, really? But there you are.
It's 200 quid tops, isn't it? That's the normal price.
There's no. Well, I mean, normally if you go and watch a league game, even Premier League game, pay 35 quid, I suppose, something like that.
Is it? Oh, it's still not in the stratosphere like I thought it was.
No, it could be worse, couldn't it? Really, but £300, no, I don't think so. Somehow, really. I was going to tell you what I was going to do with what I've done with my week, but we're fast running out of time. And one thing I did want to do was like a kind of mop up from last week, and it's my turn to get up now. But I don't have to take my headphones off because I bought some with a long cord.
Okay, so I'm a cheapskate, so I can't say nasty things about you because you'll hear them.
You can, but I'm only here. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's a worry.
I just wanted to say because I kept seeing your plant.
Yes.
Every week.
We're talking about a separate plant for the non-viewers amongst us, although you might want to retune to YouTube. Yeah.
Hey, actually...
You're doing a David Bellamy.
That looks like a great hairstyle. I look a bit like Pat Sharp, don't I, really? I don't
Pat Sharp.
Or Nick Beggs.
His green hair face.
Nick Beggs, the bass guitarist from Kajagoogoo there. Sorry, Nick, if you're listening.
Such contemporary references as well.
Yeah. Is that the same
I
as
once
yours?
stood next to Pat Sharp, I'll have you know. I've got a name drop for every occasion.
You once did what? Sat next to him?
Stood next to him at, what was it? It was some kind of military show. And there was a car display, but it's sort of stock cars.
Oh, right.
And they were trying to flip over the car and failing. And he turned to me, he said, if you didn't want to turn over a car, it would happen, wouldn't it? But it's when you're trying to do it, they can't do it. Anyway, that's my sole Pat Sharp story.
And
Are you actually
just tell me
in
when
the
he walked
undergrowth?
off, did you look to the other people there and go, That was sharp.
No, that's a bit of a pat remark, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. So, right, you think that's the same breed as my plant in the background here?
Is it?
No, I'm asking. That was more a question. Isn't that what you've...
Yeah.
You might have said it off air.
Yeah, I think so.
What's the little label?
It says Asda.
Oh, that famous Latin name for a plant.
Mine's an Asda. What's yours?
Mine's Sainsbury's.
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 It says... Oh, I've never taken the label off before. Does it? Will I be able to take it back to the store?
And probably not now. But you don't need to. It's in good health.
No, this is really weird because it says, give me a warm, bright room. But this thing at the old house, where it was in a warm, bright room, nearly died. And now I've put it in we've got a darker bedroom, and I put it in there at the way of the sunlight, and it loves it. Away from direct sunlight. Water when the surface of my compost is dry. And feed every month. Warning.
This is quite possibly the most interesting podcast there's ever been.
Do not place
you reading out
on a polished surface. So there you go.
So don't put it on your head, you see. You've already broken that rule.
Thanks, Asda, for letting me know all I needed to know about horticulture. You're blooming useless. Yeah.
You put the horty into culture.
Anyway, answers on a postcard. If that's the same as his, that's all we wanted to know.
So this is, as you've gathered, Bull and Specs. I'm Adrian in the south, and in the Midlands is Shane. And the format is, if you're... What? That makes you sound too hard.
Makes me sound like a superhero. It's Shane, and Masters of the Universe.
I'm the mighty god Thor. I did hear about... Oh, dear, I'm going to drift off topic now. I did hear about a guy from Birmingham who did this sort of act... I'm the mighty god Thor, and it kind of took the edge off him being really hard. And anyway, but I digress, with apologies to our friends in the UK's second city, which is on your doorstep. What am I talking about? Oh, yes, we have two extra topics. We talk about our week, as we've just done, and then we have two extra topics which you may well be familiar with, big stories or big-ish stories in the news, or they might be just slightly under the radar. One of them might be. This one is religious people live on average 4 years longer than their agnostic and atheist peers. This is according to shock new research, which comes from Ohio University. Now, I'll be honest, Shane brought this to my attention, but I think it's not the first time it's been investigated. The interesting thing here is that they did their research via people's obituaries, and then they worked backwards, as it were. Now, the problem with that is that it doesn't necessarily give details of... I don't know. Later on, doesn't it make a reference to... I'm looking at the same article you were looking at, Shane. Not necessarily knowing people's cause of death.
There were lots of anomalies in there. As you read the article, I wonder if it's one of these, Adrian. We've all had these, haven't we? Where the university puts out the story and they said, right, this is our research. This is the data, and it's left to editors in newspapers to make up their own conclusion as to what the results mean. Because as you get further into this, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like they're saying, well, yeah, but there are lots of other factors like, their increased participation in social groups, what activities they did. So, isn't it? What was that thing where they say dogs have 4 legs, my cat has 4 legs, therefore my cat is a dog?
Right.
Have you heard
draw
that?
the wrong conclusion?
Yeah, you draw because you've only based on the data that you've got available. And I wonder whether it's this. But just for a moment, let's just humour them for a second and say that all right, let's imagine that this is true.
Yeah.
The next quandary that I had, I'm thinking, okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean to me?
You're going to die young, obviously.
Well, I know. Well, I started out as a Catholic, so doesn't that count for? I must get points for that, mustn't I? Surely.
Well, of course, there's a play Once a Catholic, so technically you can't stop being a Catholic even if you want to,
unless you get excommunicated.
Yeah, but even then, I think the point of the play is that it gets under your skin. I actually want to write an answering play to that, which is Once a Protestant, which is how I started out. Not that we tend to use that term because it's the dear old C of E. It kind of, Protestant is the word that dare not mention its name somehow.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was always brought up to there were Protestants and Catholics, but then of course that I presume that goes back to Northern Ireland, doesn't it, as well, and the Troubles and all that sort of stuff. But it's a word you don't hear. You're right, you don't hear that anymore, do you? Protestant?
Not that much, but I think it's probably it's a kind of default thing. It's most likely if you call yourself Christian in the UK, or certainly in England, I should say, you are most likely C of E. I'm just on the basis of numbers, I'm saying.
You see, then I got into this quandary about whether I'm an atheist or an agnostic. I couldn't make my mind up as to, because there's part of me that kind of thinks, actually, I'd like to believe that there is a God. And if you look at the evidence in the Bible, for example, particularly in Catholicism, like Jesus even warns everybody about people who'd start a church in his name.
Right.
He even says, like, don't trust these people. So what do? They start a church in his name. So I kind of think, well, if maybe some of that has rubbed off, and actually I'm more agnostic than atheist. Perhaps I'm not.
Well, I would have thought if you can't decide which one you are, then you are agnostic, aren't you, by definition?
Why? Because
you're not. It's unknowable, or you think it's unknowable.
Right. Yeah, I could kind of go with that. I mean, I'm not. I'm an anti-organised religion kind of guy. I think that's what I have a problem with. Whatever the religion is, I kind of think people are kind of better off doing their own thing. But back to the story, and I'm just thinking. So where does that if I'm not fervently religious, but I'm quietly, all right, so let's say I'm quietly agnostic.
Very quietly.
Am I going to live longer or not? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't know. Well, there are certain lifestyle choices, aren't there, as well as you say, the complicating factors. And you can never take, what are you giggling about now?
You're right, because I can't find, there was an allusion to this in the article that suggested that if you were religious, you wouldn't do filthy things. I mean, that's what...
Well, we all know how your brain works.
And so, honestly, I'm going to try, while you're talking, I'm going to try and find the bit that is, because I thought that means that they're trying to say that if you're religious, you don't do filthy stuff. That's what they're on about there.
But did you spot? You think that's funny? Did you spot the name of the I think the leader of this Ohio University team of academics? They include Associate Professor of Psychology. This is the guy in question. His name is Christian End. I mean, talk about appropriately named. Did you not spot that? No. I had to look at the date for a minute, wondering if it was April the 1st.
That is ridiculous, isn't it?
That is mad. So it looks like he wants to end the Christian religion, which won't win him too many votes in America, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing of the idea that if you're deeply religious, then you're going to live longer. But then, to what cost? I suppose is the answer as well. Is if you're living a life of celibacy and abstinence, those extra 6 years ain't half going to drag, aren't they?
It's a bit like he's disgraced now, isn't he? Dare one quote Clement Freud talking about if you give up smoking. You should live 5 years longer. He said, well, that's not true. It just feels longer.
Yeah, I found the paragraph now. The difference between practicing worshippers and those who were not part of a religious group could be down to a mix of social support, stress-relieving practices, and abstaining from unhealthy habits, the author suggests. Well, that to me.
Well, I thought, I'm sorry, the stress-relieving practices I was thinking of was an unhealthy habit at the same time, but obviously I've misinterpreted.
Hang on a second, are we supposed to be doing the stress-relieving habit or not? You are, but you have to put your gloves on first.
Oh, please, and clean up afterwards. Anyway, moving swiftly on. What's this about? An extra 6.48 years of life. That's a separate study, again in the States, but the Des Moines Register. I always forget how they pronounce it. Is it Des Moines or Des Moines?
Des Moines, isn't it, I think? Is it Des Moines?
Right. Anyway, that's a newspaper. But so that's a further analysis of 500 obituaries. So that's a newspaper in Iowa. Found the effect was even more pronounced, and that was associating, as I say, 6.48, nearly 6.5 extra years of life. So obviously, if you move to Iowa from... are you yawning now?
No, that was a deep sigh of desperation.
Existential angst.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But of course, we are social creatures. Religions can be particularly good, with a following wind, and if you land on your feet in the right area, they can be very good at a supportive network. And I believe that I don't think it's too controversial that there is a percentage, I couldn't put a figure on it, but of people who aren't. If you cut them open, they're not actually believers, but they like the observances of the religion. They like as I say, the social network in effect. I think they're called vicars, actually, in my experience. But the more I think about it,
the thing I was surprised about, you said that's a newspaper, the Des Moines Register. I thought it was a punitive list. If you're on the Des Moines Register, then you get thrown out of Iowa.
You're going to hell.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know whether are we saying that this is the real deal or not? Who knows or dares to suggest one way or the other?
Let me say, in my youth, when I arguably knew even less, although I don't know, with each passing week, maybe it turns out I know less anyway. But I read in the London Evening Standard, which my dad used to buy on the way home from work.
Used to love the Standard.
And I did. I liked leafing through it once he brought one home. But tell the kids today there used to be 2 London evening newspapers that you'd pay money for. They won't believe you.
No. What was the other one? Anyway. The Standard. What was the other one?
Evening News, London Evening News.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Which then got absorbed into the Standard, and
right.
For all its pains and all its history, it got a tiny, tiny mention at the top of the masthead. Anyway, there was a report once on, and this was coincidentally during the Troubles, or is it coincidence? But that Catholics didn't live as long as Protestants in Northern Ireland. Wait for it. It was raising the question. This article was: is it because the Catholics carry a greater burden of guilt? But of course, this is a London paper seeing the world from arguably a C of E perspective in those days.
Wow.
Of course, there's so many other factors, and now I know what I didn't know then about Catholics. This is getting into a contentious area, but I think it's fairly well accepted, maybe outside the most extreme circles, that Catholics were at that stage second-class citizens in terms of getting being on that housing waiting list and so on. So of course they're going to be inclined to have shorter lives. I mean, these are all generalisations, but what do you make of that with your Irish roots?
Well, I mean, the thing that immediately sprung to mind is who's writing the article, as well as you alluded to. You're thinking, well, they're coming from a perspective anyway, because I mean, it's outrageous, isn't it? But I mean, that's newspapers. People say about bias. I was reading an article the other day and saying about bias in journalism. And they're saying that really it's immature and unrealistic to expect that a journalist can write something that isn't biased in some way, because they'll have either been immersed in the community, or they'll have seen something, or they'll have done something which will provide inherent bias as well. So I suppose that's writ large, isn't it? Really, I guess. But
yes,
I don't know. This whole idea though that if you go to church. And I don't know about you, but going to church was, as a kid, was the pinnacle of boredom and just the worst. You just used to long Sunday mornings. You'd long for the ability to stay in bed. If I'd have known that I'd get an extra 6 years of life, I still wouldn't.
Well, that was 6 years you spent being bored in church, isn't it?
Yeah,
unfortunately,
exactly. So you kind of always, can you really? You're listening to the Bull and Specs podcast with Shane O'Connor and Adrian Lacey. Our final story this time around, quite frankly, he said in his best I'm writing to the Daily Mail in the morning voice, has got my blood boiling. The Royal Mail of all people, has banned patriotic postal work, as it says here, from flying England flags during the World Cup on their delivery vehicles. Have you seen this, Adrian? They said they're not allowed to have flags on. They're not allowed to even put a sticker on their vehicle.
Yes.
Because the only logo they have besides Royal Mail is the Royal Mail, and that's it. They have nothing else on their vans and their vehicles. It makes my blood boil, not for the reason, because they're all going, oh, this is bonkers, this shouldn't happen, it's terrible. It's not for the reason that they've said that you can't have the stickers and the flags, the England flags to support the England team during the World Cup on the vehicles. It's the pathetic why do they have to, how do they get into this kind of pathetic spiral of making up stupid reasons and saying, oh, well, it's health and safety, and it's because they haven't got the balls to say, look, there are vans and we don't want you sticking anything on them.
Yeah, they've given this excuse about, oh, if the flag blows onto the windscreen, you could have an accident. Well, I mean, you can't say it could never, ever happen, but I'd like to do an FOI, a Freedom of Information request, precisely how many people have died due to England flags coming adrift on their vans or cars.
You do kind of think the Ministry of Transport, which governs all things motor vehicular in this country, would have something pretty stern to say about these plastic flags if they were a hazard to other road users.
Yes.
I mean, this, the idea that they carry letters in the vans, if there's a gust of wind, they could block the vision of the driver, and maybe they should stop taking letters in the vans now as well.
Good point. Or maybe they should have driverless vans, and having them earlier than everyone else. Sorry, you were going to say?
No, we do this in this country all the while, and this is what really gets me down, is why don't we give the, I looked at this story and I can't figure out what the real reason is. I don't know whether you've got any insight into that, but tell us the real reason. Just say because we don't want you to, or because we're really upset that Scotland didn't qualify, or whatever. I don't care what it is, but don't insult our intelligence with this fake health and safety. We're doing it for your own good, aren't we? Aren't we great for saying all this? Because as you read down the article even further, they kind of do say there are vans, and we'll.
Yeah, I do feel that they're finally telling the truth there. That it's only a hunch, but it's very odd to as you say, to go with the health and safety thing, and then as a payoff at the end say, well, by the way, we only want one logo on the van. Yeah. Well, technically, you could argue with the St George cross is not a logo, which is part of the point, really. It's for people who want to fly it, and also the way they feel about football. It's the old quote, isn't it? You'd know who said it. It's not Bill Shankly, is it? Football isn't life or death. It's more important than that.
More important than that. Yeah. Is it a Cloughie? I don't know. It sounds.
Yeah, I don't think it's him, but it's someone like that, if there was indeed anyone like Brian Clough.
The other thing as well is that, do you see this? It says not only does it covers flags and stickers, not only on their vans, but on their trolleys. I mean,
are they off their trolleys?
They must be off their trolleys, so in order not to have one on their trolley. I mean, on what planet do you stop somebody from putting an England flag or England sticker on their trolley that they carry little parcels about? And you have to be a pretty mean-spirited.
Oh, yeah, but I can think what the excuse would be. I think aerodynamically it would slow down the trolley and thereby the post, because the wind resistance of the flag flapping about is, it's going to delay the mail, isn't it? So I'm with them.
Do you think there'd be like exhausted postmen all over the country just going,
oh, God, this was so much easier before the World Cup. What's changed?
It was the flag gaffer. I was doing so well. and then the wind got up and what with me,
I just couldn't push it up the hill, Gaff.
It's just like, come on, get a grip of yourself. I mean, people must look at us as a country and think, God, no wonder they can't organise Brexit. They're not allowed to come on their bikes. I mean, the fact that the post office still has bikes, I think, is really quaint in itself, isn't it? It's quite nice, really. I quite like that.
Yeah, but next they're going to get rid of all the black and white cats that sit next to them in the vans. I mean, that's outrageous.
I tell you what I did think of, and I remember, I think it was one of the first times I went to the United States. We had a couple of days in New York, and we went down to Florida. A mate of mine at the time had got a villa down there, and he said, "Oh, you can stop in my place," kind of thing. So we stopped down there.
It wasn't an Aston Villa, was it?
It wasn't. I still don't. Just honestly, that's another story for another day. That is. Oh dear. It's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong.
Sorry,
but
I take that back.
The one thing that I noticed was that how much they celebrate the American flag. And also, there's this thing isn't there, about if you're a serviceman, people, if you're in uniform in public, they'll give you free stuff, and people go up to you and say thank you for your service and all this kind of stuff. If you've been on active duty, well, they don't know. I mean, if you're wearing a uniform, but you used to see it, and you'd be driving along in Florida, and you'd see like in the distance there's a barn, and then on the side of it there'd be the American flag painted on the side, or the ribbon for the whatever. I can't remember what their like Help for Heroes equivalent is, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought, can you imagine them doing that? Like all public vehicles have got the American flag on in the United States, whether it be police cars or the postal service, and here we are, this petty little nation of Jobsworths going, "Oh, you can't put that on your bicycle." And you can imagine them getting home at night and going, "Hello, dear, do you have a nice day at work? What did you do?" "I stopped somebody putting a flag on their bike." And you think, oh man, what have we become? Is that?
Well, I don't know. There's so much there to untangle in so little time. Can you imagine, though, in the States? I'm thinking of because I was laughed at once for admiring UPS, what was that, United Parcel Service, or Universal Parcel?
Yeah.
Admiring the fact that you never see a dirty UPS van. And when I was in the States, it's as true there over here. It's obviously corporate policy. I can't imagine them being allowed to. They might be allowed to have the stars. I don't know. Could you imagine them flying the stars and stripes? I'm not sure.
I don't think they do on UPS, but I think the postal. Well, I can't remember what's the American Post. Is it American Post or something like that? The American Postal, so the blue and white vans. Yeah. They all have the American flag on. Police cars all have the American flag on. I've noticed there's on the police uniform of it, and I've noticed they've started doing a black and white version of the Union flag on police officers' uniforms in this country. Have you seen that?
Oh, I might have done, actually, yeah.
I don't know why it's black and white. I don't know if it's a cheaper license or what. I'm not sure. But
I think it's because, our flag has. I mean, there is the history in the 70s. For me, recent history. I can't speak for anyone else. The National Front appropriated that. It's a very intolerant sort of far right group.
The flag of St George they appropriated, didn't they, in the 70s? National Front, didn't they?
I thought it was the Union flag, as it I think properly is known.
But you see, there's a positive thing. It's like this idea that racists appropriated our flag, or the flag of St George, in the 1970s, and there's not a damn thing we can do to get it back. This is a great opportunity, isn't it, for us to say, do you know what? Actually, football is a really positive thing. Let's use that opportunity to make sure that we reclaim it and we get our flag back and we make it, what it was intended to be. The thing is, we're such a complicated nation, aren't we? Because you've got the English side of it, and then you've got the Union flags, which represents Great Britain, but we haven't got a great British football team apart from when we go to the Olympics, and that's rubbish anyway. And do you know what I mean? So we're kind of in that quandary, aren't we? Really, I guess with yes, our identity again.
Also, Northern Ireland is well within its rights to be fed up with the term Team GB, talking as you were at the Olympics. Because GB doesn't include Northern Ireland. So, we are complicated. Yes. But I would have thought, they've made such an issue of it now, they're going to have to enforce it, aren't they? Otherwise, there'll be people sort of reporting. I saw this flagrant breach of, or was it a fragrant bleach? One of the two. No, that's
they don't make enough fragrant bleach for my mind. It always smells too bleachy, doesn't it? That's the thing about it.
But we know from a previous bill and specs you were a great fan of bleach growing up. But anyway, that's for people to delve into our not inconsiderable archive.
Oh, matron, dive into our delve
But
into our archive.
I wonder whether there's going to be a kind of, I was nearly going to call it dirty protest. Perhaps I was thinking of Northern Ireland in the 70s. Not a dirty protest, but a quiet protest by posties that you'll see a Union Jack on their uniform, or there'll be some loophole they manage to exploit whereby they can have it on a belt, or I don't know, maybe someone will have a red, white and blue haircut. Someone with hair, obviously.
Yeah, well, it's just the flag of St George, isn't it? Because it's only England.
Sorry, yes, the red and white.
So the red and white, yeah. There was a guy locally, I remember, a few years ago, because obviously the World Cup only comes around every 4 years, and he painted the whole front of his house. He painted it white with a big red cross on the front to support.
No, that was the hospital.
It became ever so awkward because he got it on the market for sale, and it's a bit silly, really. But yeah, so we're in agreement, aren't we, on this one for once? Are we?
No, we can't end on a note of agreement. That's ridiculous.
No. I think you're going to have a flag on your car just to be a little bit different, I guess. We've run out of time. I know that for certain.
Yes, tragically.
Tragically, he said, but didn't really sound like he meant it. That's it for another episode of the Bull and Specs podcast. Thanks for being with us. If you've got any thoughts or comments, you can stick them.
Oh, charming. I thought you were going to finish there.
Let me finish. You can stick
you're
them
such a tease.
wherever you've heard the podcast. Generally, there's a place that you can comment, which is quite helpful. So if you've caught us on any of the platforms that we're going to mention now, you can stick a comment on. Be nice, so we won't want to play with you again. Tell them where they can get hold of us, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do audio this week with a straight face.
Gets you.
Yeah, exactly. We are on Spreaker, which is misspelt speaker with an extra R. We are on Stitcher.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, Stitcher.
10 points.
You can tell I use these frequently. Now, you say iTunes because you're an old boy. I, at the thrusting cutting edge of new technology, know it's technically Apple Podcasts. And iHeartRadio, and there's one more I think I forgot.
No, that's it. That's it. There's the four.
That's it. That's good.
Yeah.
Good. I think I won that one.
I think you're just being greedy. You can also see the pictures as well if you want to. Maybe you've heard the audio version and thought, God, they sound sexy. I wonder if they're like that in real life.
You did say maybe.
No, it's just, yeah, people muse different things, don't they? They're entitled to their opinion, leave them alone. You can have a look at the pictures and see for yourself. Simply go along to YouTube, and if you type in Bull and Specs but use the ampersand rather than the word and, then you should find the channel. You should find the back episodes as well. It should all become clear. Until the next time, though. I know what I'm going to be doing this week. I'm going to send the wife out when the postman comes. And I'm going to get him to keep him talking, and I'm going to nip around the other side of his van. I'm going to stick an England sticker and see if I can get in the sack.
You devil!
I don't care.
Is that a Royal Mail sack?
It will be the sack. He's got loads of sacks in there anyway. What
you did there?
Yeah. What are you going to do this week?
I don't know how I can improve on that, really. I'm hoping the flowers will last at least another 7 days, he said, going slightly off mic to point to them. So, yes, I will caress them and talk to them. I'm sure that will make them live longer. Either that or I'll convert them to a sort of mainstream religion.